Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 18 of Just One More Podcast, the Star Ocean spectacular gameplay coverage thing. It is November 15th, a couple days behind when we usually record, but I am Jeff from Just One More Level, and we have John from MyBrainOnGames.com. How are you doing, John?
I'm good. Just got back from a late night walk. It's brisk. It was in the 30s. It's nighttime. Very dark outside.
Not as rain. Well, it's still a little wet outside, but not as rainy as it has been. But we've got a lot of Star Ocean to talk about. So, where we left off with the previous episode, I was fairly behind where you were at. I had gotten to Rythal. I had recruited Midas to join the team, a very powerful semiomancer that's in the game. I love his attitude. His attitude is I just enjoy it. It's a good I guess a good fold or a good counter to some of the characters that are already part of the team.
Yeah, he's just a big sourpuss, and especially a yin and yang to like Leticia and Albert. Of course, they represent the kingdom, and for reasons he has not fully divulged, he despises the kingdom.
Yeah, he's got a couple reasons and stuff, but it seems like it's much more like the reasons that he hates the kingdom seem to be much more deep-seated than just some of the reasons that he is given. But I remember that I had done my stuff in Rythal. I had left, and you had mentioned that I had missed a side quest in Rythal that essentially unlocked the Isoa game within a game. And so kind of after we finished, I went back to Rythal, found this said quest or side quest giver, unlocked Isoa, and I gotta say I kind of enjoy Isoa.
Oh yeah, I really like it.
I think you had mentioned that it really sucks that there's no like multiplayer component to it.
Yes. Yeah, it's a simple little board game, little figure game, but it is, it's just a 1v1 situation. It'd make for a perfect multiplayer mode. Like I'd love to build a deck and challenge you in a game. Challenge another person in a game.
And I like that. For the most part, it is a fairly simple concept. You've got, depending on the difficulty of the character that you're taking on, like it changes the size of the field that you play on, but you're not really having to deal with terrain or anything. You're not having to really worry about like your figures against the opponent's figures. It's more just you've got a health pool, your opponent has a health pool. You've got these little figures that you put on the board, and essentially, you've got like 6 or 7 different classes. There's like pawn and soldier, elite, gunner.
Yeah, they each have different abilities. Like with the soldiers, once you place 3 of them, you get to place an extra figure that turn.
Yeah, which has saved me a couple times. Especially kind of taking on some of the more aggressive opponents in the game. I really don't understand the ranking system, because you've got, I kind of understand it, but you've got like apprentice, and you have beginner, and you've got master, and you've got, I think I saw someone that was an elite.
Yeah, and like all different levels of master. That's one aspect where I feel like good note taking is going to be beneficial. So as I've been going through towns, I like find those Isoa players and I put them in my notes. this person is a level 3 master. This person is a beginner. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and beat them, but so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed it. It didn't take up a whole lot of my time playing the game, but it did after I unlocked it. I was like, ooh, I can't wait to take on some of these other people and see what kind of figures that I get for beating these challengers. And of course, the game kind of gatekeeps a little bit. It won't let you take on opponents that are too far ahead of you in ranking. So, for a little bit, it prevents you from just consistently getting wailed on, I guess.
Yeah, and limits how much you can play early on, at least, because you do kind of have to go through and say, okay, well, let's see, where are people I can actually go up against?
Yeah.
And I don't remember. I think I've fought somebody twice, but I don't remember if they give you rewards the second time you beat them, or if maybe they just give you some money. Because, yeah, like you said, every time you beat somebody, they give you a new figure that you can add to your Isoa deck and kind of augment it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I've really tried to just take on people once, but the fact that you can still challenge these opponents after you beat them does mean that if you're just trying to get the pieces that the character or the opponents give you, like you said, note taking is really going to be a crucial part of making sure that you're not just repeatedly taking on the same number of people over and over again.
Yeah, I've not had. think I'm the expert rank at this point, and I don't think I've even lost a match. There have been some placements where I'm like, oh, that was stupid. Why did I place my unit there? And they immediately get captured. But I love just basically setting up kind of the same way each match and just seeing if the opponent falls into it, and then just being able to capture 3 or 4 of their units and just be like, well, your chances of victory just dropped.
Yeah. And I do, and this kind of goes to just what we've talked about with the wonderful menu system. I really wish that the Isoa pieces were in a separate section of the inventory, because running around and finding items and stuff and then going into the inventory to see just what all you got on your spree of collecting things, and you've got some of your items like the blueberries or the aqua potions or whatever, and then you have 10 to 20 Isoa pieces that are in the way, and they're just duplicates of the same thing that you've already got. And then you come across just actual other healing items and stuff, and then you got another set of 20 pieces that it's come on. I wish there was a way to just take all of the Isoa pieces out of the useful items and just have it off into its own section of the menu for inventory.
Now, have you added any pieces to your deck?
Well, that I haven't added anything new since the first couple of matches that I had.
Okay, because there is that separate menu kind of in the codex section.
Oh.
Jeff.
Does it take it out of the menu system?
Jeff.
Sucks. It is an awful menu system.
Yeah, okay, so in the codex menu, it's the next to last option, and that's, it just says Isoa. Whenever you click into that, that's where you can do all your deck management.
Yeah.
Because you can also change your special ability, your player ability. I think by default it's the spend 3 bars to do this much damage, spend 5 bars to do this much damage. There's a couple different options you can switch those out to.
So if you does it do I have to add it to my deck for it to be taken out of the inventory, or is there a separate thing that it just moves them all over?
That's the problem with the inventory system, and I think what I think I mentioned last episode or the episode before, where there was some confusion on whether equipping an Isoa as an Isoa playing piece as an accessory would remove it from my deck, but no, they're all in your as you call it, usable items or useful inventory, just all the time. But
Yeah.
then if you go into that ISOA section of the codex, then you're just looking at your ISOA deck, and you actually just sort them by class type. So here are all the soldiers, here are
Yeah.
the snipers.
Yeah. I just wish that there was a way to uh, pull all those pieces out of the inventory, so that like when I'm just running around killing things, I can just see the stuff that I've picked up, as far as like the blueberries and the potions. And
I understand why they're there, just because you can equip them by accessories. But I think maybe what can somewhat solve that problem is in the item inventories, the far right option basically just shows you what you've picked up in order. So you can just go back and say, okay, what was like the third last thing I picked up?
Yeah. But with that, like I said, I'm enjoying Isoa more than I thought. For the most part, it is a very simple concept, but it is an enjoyable thing to just kind of tackle when going into like a new town, and seeing what challenges await you from those from the people there.
Yeah, not a ton of strategic depth, but there is some.
Yeah, and I have come across a couple opponents in a couple of the areas that we won't get to in this episode, that did actually pose more of a challenge, mainly because their pieces were fairly strong, like 250 points to 300 points of damage that they were dishing out individually. So it's like, oh, I really need to focus on getting those pieces off the board, because they're heavy hitters, and they increase the opponent MP bar quicker. So like there's at least a few people coming up that pose more of a challenge, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, that'll come with time. It's just, like I said, I have not lost a match yet, but again, I'm only ever playing beginners, apprentices, and experts. I'm not into like the master ranks yet.
So, with that being said, with me going back to Rythal, unlocking that forever side quest, and that's one thing that you and I had talked about a couple days ago.
Speaking of the menu system.
Yeah, the menu system is not great, but like I've picked up so many side quests, and up until a couple days ago, I could not figure out where I was supposed to keep track of what I had already gotten, outside of like going back or just stumbling across a character that gave me the side quest in the first place,
Or pulling up your map and seeing the yellow side quest icon.
Yeah. And so, luckily, a couple days ago, you pointed out that you need a magnifying glass to see it, but like on the map that you bring up, which is the right trigger or R2, depending on what console you're playing on. I'm not sure for PC. I don't have no idea. But when you bring up the map, pull out the magnifying glass, and down in the very bottom left-hand corner, there's a button that you can press that brings up all of your side quests. Which, when you've got items to be delivered, you can fast travel to those places, which is nice.
Yeah, that was a nice touch.
Now, if only it was just easier to get to those things. Like, there's so many, push this button to do this, to then push this button to get into here, then to push this button to get into here, and then, like, just, I wish it was more simplified. But one thing that got unlocked after dealing with Rythal is the Dinmar Delve, I think is what it was called. It's like a farming area with like tougher enemies that you can go into, or I think it's Dinmore.
Dinmore Delve, yeah, kind of like a challenge dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had just stumbled upon it as I was going through searching for the traveling merchants and kind of revisiting some of the past areas. And I think it's in the Larkus Weld or Larkus region. It's like, oh, that area of the map is accessible now. Let me go in there and see what that is. And of course, entering from that side, it doesn't really go far. It basically just like leads to a room, I think, maybe another hallway, another passageway. But
Yeah.
you can reach the other end of it from the Galka Shrine, and then that's really where you enter to do the challenges.
And there's a lot of Duma shards in there. Um, at least more than a typical area. I can't remember. I know there was a big boss that's in there, but I can't remember what the boss was. Um, but
I
yeah,
think the first one's like Sheltered Frog or Sheltered Toad, and then the
I
second
think
one
so.
is a like Stone Man, Rock Man, kind of like the rock equivalent of that mud monster from the, I think, Larkus region.
Yeah, kind of in the earlier stages of the game. Um, but for the most part, like it's not a lot up to this point. Not a lot of stuff has happened in regards to the story. We don't really know too much about the interactions about the between the different characters. Um, we know Letitia and Albert. They're together. They're part of the kingdom. You got the princess and her bodyguard. Um,
Well, it sounds to
Al-
me like somebody hasn't been doing a lot of private actions.
Albert has. Well, I mean, I've done a lot. It's just they add some stuff to the stories. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, they flesh out the relationships between the characters, kind of get
yeah,
deeper
a little bit
look
more.
into
Yeah.
them.
Albert, obviously, he had some issues with his arm, and Midas and Elena have been helping with that. Midas is tagging along, and he keeps referencing that he's tagging along because he's wanting to keep an eye on Albert and Elena. Um,
Yeah, I
but
mean, keep an eye on Albert's arm and then learn more about Elena. And I think, stuff from Ray's homeworld, Ray's outer space adventures.
yeah, he's trying to be coy with it. He's trying not to come off as like he's super excited or eager to figure out this stuff. He's very passive about it. He's like, oh well, I've got to be here to, in case something happens with Albert's arm, or you need some assistance with Elena, if something breaks down again, blah blah blah. Um, which there seems to be some interesting like interactions between Midas and Nina, um, just based on Midas and I think Nina's father, uh, Filberto
Yeah,
is Nina's father.
correct.
So I think for the most part, like they've got some interesting like they jab each other quite a bit in their conversations whenever the story starts to move forward. Um, but yeah, so Midas still kind of playing coy with things like he's
Yeah, and so I think whenever you went back to Rythal, was that when the COVID outbreak happened?
yep. That's getting back to Rythal. Helgar's disease is just running rampant through the city streets. Um, and I remember sending you a message and just being like, "Wow, they were very, very heavy-handed with this. Like, this is very like." Albert's talking about does a piece of cloth on my face really prevent me from getting Helgar's disease? It's like, well, no, but it helps prevent you from spreading it to somebody else. So if everybody's wearing a cloth mask, then it helps reduce the spread of Helgar's. And I was just like, man, it was just like a World Health Organization's like were they trying to get gaming studios uh, to just if we bake it into the entertainment, maybe that will help get some of these other people to start wearing masks.
Yeah.
Um,
My spouse was sitting on the couch as I was playing that section. We both thought it was pretty cool and, if anything, kind of
Timely.
memorialized that moment in time. Be able to play that and look back and say, oh, yeah, that is how it was.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
interesting to see it from like this sci-fi point of view, like, oh, well, and I guess sci-fi point of view, but they are on a quote unquote undeveloped planet.
yeah. So yeah, I got an interesting chuckle out of that. So one thing that, for the most part, like the. It, seems like the disease came from birds, so it's kind of like an avian thing. Um,
Yeah, I think in this case, Nina and Elena, they're noticing, hey, it's actually being passed by birds, or maybe they're the ones who brought it to Rythal as they followed the ships.
and there, as they pointed out, there's definitely a lot more birds than usual in the area. And of course, Midas ends up contracting symptoms of Helgar's disease. And of course, as you enter Rythal, a bird poops on his shoulder, and he just kind of like wipes it away. But after that, suddenly he's ill. So goes to the infirmary, or the infirmary. Um, and so yeah, you end up having to go through like this little kind of a pseudo mission of sorts of running around, researching the birds and the nests that they come from.
Collecting the samples.
Yeah.
And then, Elena, of course, they have the technology to cure it. Nina had done a lot of the legwork over the years in the research, but Elena kind of voiced her reservations to Ray, kind of, highlighting this game and the series' inspirations from Star Trek, kind of like talking about a prime directive sort of thing. It's like, well, we have the technology to cure this, but is it really the best thing we should do? Because that's just going to wind up creating stronger variants, perhaps, or worse diseases that these people are going to be ill-equipped to create a cure for once we're gone.
Yeah, and essentially I can understand kind of the point of view, because it's like, if we provide the means to deal with this one and then we leave, we could be just
basically prolonging
prolonging to a doomsday of sorts. But of course, Ray is very much like, we can cross that bridge when we get to it. Like, I'm not gonna set these people up to just die. I'm not gonna, like, if we have the means to help them, we should help them. So kind of a slight, not much, but a little bit of a character development type thing from Raymond with that. So Elena, and kind of like with, it's also the like interfering in an underdeveloped world, so yeah, I can see both sides, and obviously the game goes the direction of, well, we've got to save our friends. But then it just kind of wraps up.
Yeah. Okay, well, we solved it.
Yeah, we solved it, and
everyone's going to be better. We can go ahead and start passing this cure around.
And pretty much everyone's better overnight.
Yeah, and I think that gets them on the path towards their next destination, Kado.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me, or I don't know if you kind of have not quite a frustration with it. There is a little bit of a disappointment on my side with just how quickly things just seem to happen. Like the problem arises quickly, everybody just kind of adapts to it quickly, and then there's a resolution that's just done super quick. I don't know if you kind of have a similar frustration with it. I do wish that there was a little bit more like building out some of this stuff, like as far as like world building and the Vale Empire versus the Kingdom. Well, so far there's not really any details between the two.
Yeah, I think it's just a consequence of probably lack of budget, lack of time devoted to it. Trice was probably just been in a position where it's like, hey, we can't necessarily make the game we want to make, but we can get 60% of the way there.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that stuff to dig into the codex to kind of fill it out. I think if you go in there, you can glean more about the history between the Vale Empire and the Kingdom. But it may be that way right now also just because as an outsider, if we're playing Ray's Path, basically, he doesn't know a lot, and so far, Leticia and Albert haven't really delved into too much of that either.
So, and, it's kind of a situation where it does suck, but I think, I think I mentioned it a couple days ago. Like, I wish, like, I'm surprised, but I'm also not surprised that there's no, like, updates to the game yet that kind of fix some of the nuances that we've come across with, like, either the menus or, I think, is it on? I don't think it's. No, it's after Kato. Okay, never mind. Well,
yeah. I think like a patch or something like that would be great, but that's wishful thinking. Just because, what is Square Enix's long term? What is Square Enix visions of support for this game? I mean, it's a single player only game. How well does it sell? And then is it going to be worth our while to pay the fees to put out patches on the different platforms, correcting some issues that maybe Triace has developed a fix for after the game went gold.
So as they get to Kato, they end up realizing, oh, Helgar's disease has also made its way to Kato. So it's kind of making its way throughout the kingdom of Osirius. But they also get introduced to a new character, Theo.
Leticia's cousin, a commander of the kingdom's naval forces.
Yeah, and he's also kind of a slight, as far as his personality, Raymond gets kind of a kick out of the nicknames that Theo has for Leticia and Albert, especially for Albert.
Grew up together.
Albie. So.
Letty and Albie.
Yeah. So for the most part, I don't know if Theo will be a playable character. He seems like he could very well be, because he acts.
He is fully voiced. He's got a character design that's much more detailed than just regular NPCs. I mean, they even go as far as include him as a guest character for a little bit.
Yeah, and he handles his own. He's got a giant axe or something that he wields. But they inform Theo that Elena and Nina have found a cure for Helgar's disease. So, for the most part, they're like, "Hey, we've solved this problem." And
we
of
just
course,
need
Theo,
the materials to make it.
Yeah, and Theo's like, "Wait, how did you create the cure for this?" And as it's been referenced already, Raymond and Elena, they're from outer space. And they've got technology that the people on the ground don't have access to and don't understand. They just accept it. They're like, oh, yeah, we have no idea how you're doing this or what kind of magic you're wielding to make this happen. But yeah, we're not going to ask any questions. We're just going to go along with it because you're friends with Leticia. So yeah, for the most part, they go around trying to get the parts that they need to be able to make the cure for Kato. And they run.
I mean, they've got to go up to Mount Codorinth to get the herbs.
Yeah,
he's got his forces protecting that. Kind of got on lockdown though, because there's been a mysterious lady seen, and Ray's hopeful that it's Chloe. But they head up to Mount Codorinth, and they find a lot of stuff there. They find herbs, but the herbs have been ravaged in some sections. And of course, they see the return of those odd blue worms.
And I think this is the area that has that poisonous...
Oh, yeah, the poison sucked. Poison and a whole bunch of the vines.
Yeah, all the thorns and stuff trying to get through that, because in a like a cutscene, they say that if this toxin touches you, it can create paralysis. But then when you just run through it, it's poison.
Yeah, I loved that. Like before you enter this one little cave where it's just dank with this poison, Elena was like, "Yeah, hey, this could cause paralysis and even like immediate death." And it's just like, "Okay, now go run through it and take 50 points of damage every like 2 seconds." It's like, okay, I guess it's not that bad, is it?
Yeah, that's maybe Elena is still, maybe her sensors are still damaged. She's still doing repairs or something. Who knows? So maybe her scans were saying, oh, this will cause paralysis, but it meant poison.
Yeah, yeah. So climbing climbing Mount Cotarinth, navigating through all the poisons, the vines, whatnot. I was surprised when we get to the top and then you find, this is not a mountain. This is not a cave. This is a laboratory up here.
Yeah, and you come across, I think once you get to the top, and you get inside the laboratory, which, as far as the planet goes, seems to be much more technologically advanced than
if this
anything that we've seen.
Yeah, if this place is like Middle Ages, we're looking at like some futuristic laboratory here where they've got test tubes where they're creating those blue Enigma worms.
Yeah. And they've got a nice little patch of I think it was the dill whip that they need.
Yeah, but before that, as they enter the cave, they do find the woman who was causing a stir in Kato, and it turns out not Chloe. It turns out, though, she is one of those purple-skinned, horned creatures or people.
Yeah. And she's got a nice little surprise for the party. A giant bird-like thing.
Sampati, the holy bird. Oh, yeah, and that's where they introduced the vatting.
Yes, which is a fairly cool evolution of the Duma, like cooperative like combat type of thing. It's not quite a limit break.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's just a special attack that you can trigger after a meter has filled.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not too special.
And I did not get to use it in that fight.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Was that fight difficult for you or long?
It was long. It wasn't really challenging. For the most part, like
it was just annoying because the enemy was off the ground. Yeah, it's like, okay, I don't feel like I can get a lot of long combos in, and since the Vati meter fills by damage, attacks, all that, it seemed like it took forever to fill it up. I did get to use my special attack in that fight, but it was just a long, tedious fight.
And I think so. It's a shared meter across all of the characters, but whoever you're controlling gets to use it. And I guess everybody has like their own unique vatting attack. But yeah, I did not get to use it in that fight. I think I got close, but I ended up finishing the fight before getting to use it. So as soon as I was in like the immediate fight afterwards, I was like, well, I want to see what it does, and kind of a cool animation thing. But what ended up happening is that the animation starts. Duma ends up kind of like pseudo transforming, attaching itself to the back of Raymond, and like as he pulls the sword back for that animation before he like dives forward, he basically becomes see-through. Like his body becomes see-through, and you can see the world behind him, and it's like his character is cut out of the scene. So I was like, oh well, that's kind of weird. I don't know if that's supposed to happen, which the next time that I used the vatting thing, that didn't happen. So I was like, oh, okay, that was just a glitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember noticing that or having that issue.
And so yeah, like
But I did show you a couple of the visual issues I've had.
Yeah, like the game has some fun. I'm glad that they're not like game breaking. I'm glad that they don't.
They're entertaining.
Yeah, they're not problematic in a sense that it causes issues with playing the game, but they're noticeable. Like you can't not see them. Yeah, yours was like the world was being eaten by some darkness or something.
Yeah, it was so strange. Very cool. Like I just about restarted the game, just like quit the game, backed out because it was not stopping. Like I showed you like that 30-second clip of it, but I mean I was just running around. I thought, okay, well let me maybe exit this area, and by the time right before I got to like the next area, it stopped. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm good now.
Yeah. And so yeah, for the most part, like it's like after like dealing with that big bird fight, and yeah, going in, like you see all of the various experiments that are going on, along with like Nina just rushes in, like everyone
everyone's
else is just
talking about what just happened, and then Nina just walks into the cave. It's like, is nobody else seeing Nina do this?
Yeah, and she comes across this little patch of a dill whip.
Last patch dill whip, and it's all good.
And then of course, I think do they end up chasing? No, I think chasing. I think they chase the character, the purple girl, up to the top there, and that's when they, after that fight, then they go through and see the laboratories and the experiments and the dill whip and stuff like that. I don't think do we see the character again before leaving the mountain?
No, because I mean you chase her through the laboratory and then up to the top where she summons Sympati, and then during that fight she escapes.
Okay.
But then you got dill whip in hand, so you report back to Theo, and he's pleased about that. Yeah. And he decides to return to the capital with you guys. He says, I'll go ahead and go with you to Esendros.
And, it's...
and, lets them know, hey, Chloe is in their custody.
Yep, in the capital. But...
Well,
so...
Does I don't know, does he say that she's in the capital or just in their custody?
Well... Yeah, that they're in the kingdom's custody. So yeah,
like
not,
Lord
not
Rayan.
at the capital. But yeah, everything seems to be pointing to, because I think the what's her face, the purple horned girl, I think she drops like documents or something. And like Nina sees that, she's looking through them, and it's like Delric, Rythal, and Kato are all targets. Like one area was targeted by
showing that the Helgar's disease was basically an intentional attack, and perhaps done by the Vale Empire. And so then, well, these purple-skinned horned creatures, they may be in cahoots with the Vale Empire to bring about the downfall of the kingdom.
Yeah, and it definitely poses a lot of questions in regards to these purple people. Like, since nobody seems to know where they came from, I think it's safe to assume that they are from space as well.
Yeah, I think Elena makes that suggestion, just saying, hey, like what we were talking about, the technology they have is unlike anything else from this planet. They're off-worlders.
And so yeah, Theo joins the party, goes back, and it's essentially I've got a random note here that I just happened to notice that Raymond's mouth is always slanted. And
I remember you saying that the other day.
Like every time that like you see Raymond's face while he's talking, every time he closes his mouth, his mouth just kind of like shifts into like this slanted uh, 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 like position. Um,
Well, one of the
but
areas between Cado and Ascendros
yeah,
that we passed through, the Assyrian High Road, it's my favorite area so far.
it
Just
looks
because,
pretty.
as we discussed, it's evocative to me of like the Xenoblade Chronicles. It's this massive open area. You've got these rolling hills with all this like lush green plant life and trees and massive structures like impossibly tall. But then,
Yeah.
as we discussed a couple days ago, it takes a performance hit, I think, because it is
Oh
so large
yeah.
and it has all this foliage and there's lots of actually some big groups of enemies.
Yep, there are a lot of them, and this is kind of what I was referencing a little bit earlier. Was just I wish that there was a patch or something that could possibly help the performance in this area. I don't know how often we will be going through this area.
Well, I mean, you could just fast travel and skip it if you want.
Yeah, but then missing out on like experience and levels and stuff, and I don't really
Well,
want to
you
do
can
that.
just get that in another area. There's
Um,
not levels or experience exclusive to this area.
Well, yeah. So for the most part, probably like outside of potentially missing out on conversations, which the conversations they have not developed in any way, shape, or form in these
Yeah,
little areas in between.
it warns you every time before you fast travel, and I still, even though I've experienced them, and they're basically the extent of we keep going northwest to get to our next destination, right?
This village is to the east, if I remember correctly.
Even though they're like that, I've still like, okay, I'll go ahead and hoof it.
Yeah, just in case. Like it's like we were hanging out a couple days ago, and Shining Force 2. Out of the like 15 or 20 barrels that I looked at, one of them had something in it, and because there was one barrel that had something in it, have to check all of them. So, but yeah, that area, I feel like it drops to like 5 to 10 frames a second.
No, it's
Even
not
when
that bad.
yeah, I mean, it got pretty bad.
Oh yeah, I mean, it got
especially
choppy.
like especially in combat. But even when you're not in combat and you're just running around and stuff, like it takes a huge performance hit. But I also was noticing, and I don't know if it's just because the battles are designed that way, but kind of like what you talked about is in this area, there's a lot of enemies per battle. And I couldn't really tell if enemies were just like it seemed like enemies were just popping in front of me while a battle was going on, and I don't know if it's because the game was having difficulties rendering that enemy or if it was just that they really wanted to kind of signify that there was a lot of enemies joining the battle. But I definitely noticed that there was a lot of pop in with the character or with the enemies during battle. But it like you said, it's probably one of my favorite areas too because there's a lot of stuff in the background. There's a lot of things that are likely going to be referenced later on. I think there's like one super tall tower that has like runes and stuff on it, and I think I think has chains on it.
Yeah, there's lots of like floating platforms. It looks like there's a lot of stuff that's linked together. They've got all sorts of like glowing insignia on it. It's like, okay, is this providing power? Is this something ancient? And some of those platforms are actually like way up there, but I can see Duma crystals and some other stuff that leads me to believe, okay, I'm gonna be able to reach it at some point. It's like the area is almost just a hopeful area. It's like, okay, there's still room to grow. There's still stuff to do.
Maybe Duma allows us to fly higher up eventually.
Yeah, which I think I've seen something online to that effect, that Duma gets upgraded. But there is a merchant outside of Sendros And I think it was the same way with Kato, where it's like you get to Kato and you get to Ascendros, and hey, there's somebody outside giving a side quest. This one actually wants us to deliver a letter to his mother in Rythal, so I just immediately like, okay, well, I'm going to fast travel. I'm going to go ahead and get that done before I move on, enter Ascendros, and progress the story. Let me go and clean up the side quest. And then that took me back to Rythal, where I had the encounter with the traveling merchants.
Which I still haven't done yet.
Yeah, still need to do that. And so then that took me on like another 1 or 2 hour diversion where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go find all these traveling merchants then.
Kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole there. Just a side quest to side quest to side quest. For the most part, the next... so, for, like you... The characters in from where you're at, they've at least referenced Baldar, right?
Yeah. I mean, so I mean, you get into like we've all settled on, okay, well, we got to go to Baldar next. I was still just exploring Ascendros, the city portion, just so I could, okay, let me go find all the Isoa players. Let me see like the 1 or 2 side quests that are here. Let me go see if there's anything new in the shop or any items to turn into the shop.
And so yeah, I've got a couple just little tiny notes that I've got.
I mean, just from the start, I'll just say Ascendros is enormous.
Yes.
And just massive scale, and it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's something this game does good. Like the scale, like the areas we traverse through, they're massive. Like Ascendros is absolutely enormous. It reminds me of Rabanastre from Final Fantasy XII, but
unlike Rabanastre from Final Fantasy XII,
it's just so empty. There's like nothing to do in it, and it's the same with the regions that we go through. It's like here's this massive open environment, and there's like 8 groups of enemies, like 8 little squads of enemies. There's like 6 little green pickups, and there's like 1 bunny in each of these. And I'm guessing it's a technical limitation because, we see in the Osirian High Road what happens whenever there's maybe lots of enemies and lots of moving foliage. The game really suffers. So I don't know if it's a technical limitation on why these places are so large but then basically devoid of anything to do in them.
Yeah. But it does suck because there are these massive areas with a lot of potential to do a lot of stuff with, but they
I mean,
even
like the Ascendros Castle. I mean, the castle is bigger, I think bigger than a couple of the towns we've been to. But
and
there's
like Raymond references that.
Yeah, but I mean, then you look at the map, and I'm always like, after you have the conversation to kind of progress the story, one of the first things I do is, okay, let me pull up the map, let me look for those big dots, which are NPCs who are gonna basically be Isoa players, or let me see if there's any side quests, let me scan, see if there's treasure chests or anything, and I look at the castle, and it's like, okay, there's 2 people that I can talk to in this entire thing. One of them's Theo. So, I mean, there's like 3 people. Like, one of them's Theo, one of them's another guy we're about to discuss, and then there's like 1 Isoa player or something. It's like, wow, what a waste.
And one thing that I've kind of been doing whenever I get to an area is like running across the rooftops or flying across the areas up top to get any items that I can find, or Duma crystals, or
get a good vantage
treasure
point,
chests.
Look out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, just scan. Have you maxed out your Duma scanning abilities?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. So hopefully I'm not missing anything. I shouldn't be missing anything. Like I run around, and for the most part, like I'll take, like I'll do like a since I've got the achievement now for running around, so now I've been like flying everywhere. Like I'll do like a burst, I'll stop, I'll scan. I'll do a burst, I'll stop, I'll scan. So, for the most part, I should not be missing anything. But granted, these are massive areas, but it seems like the scan has a pretty good range at this point.
Yes. Yeah, whenever you max out the scan, it covers, even though these regions are massive, these towns are getting big, it covers such a large swath of it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I've got some little tiny notes of just kind of things that I've kind of noticed. Like I've got down that Raymond seems to be too aware of things for his situation. He just kind of seems like whenever a conversation's going on, he just I guess it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Just he's very much like, oh, okay. Like no matter what the situation is, like most of his responses are just, oh, okay. Well, why are we doing this? Oh, okay. So they're it's very very simple. Um, we do get introduced to Nyan or Nayan.
Uh, yeah, Chancellor Nayan.
Yeah, and he kind of comes off as a brat. Um, he doesn't like the fact that Midas is there. Um, doesn't seem to like Midas, which Midas doesn't really like him. So
Oh yeah, Midas doesn't like anyone.
yeah, so it's a mutual dislike for them. But essentially, Nayan or Nyan, I can't remember exactly how they pronounce the name, um, really wants to let everybody know that Letitia is back, and Letitia is like, wait, let's not go around letting everybody know that I'm back yet. And she kind of puts on a little bit more of a political front of sorts. Like she's wanting to talk to her dad. She doesn't want people to know that she's back yet. But the news that she gets is that the king is actually on the front lines. And so she doesn't want anybody to know that she's there because she doesn't really plan on staying. Let's see.
And is it that, or was it because people weren't supposed to know she was gone?
Could be that as well, or it could be that.
Yeah, my notes are sparse at that section, but I remember Chancellor Naon suggesting something, and then Leticia, like, for the first time, kind of being forceful and saying, "No, this is how we're going to do it," and kind of everybody else being like, "Oh, so that's Leticia in action."
Yeah, kind of like as a more of a government official or a government authority of sorts.
Yeah. I mean, I think in that instance specifically, just basically saying, "Well, I'm going to exert my dominance over you because I am of higher rank than you, so I'm actually going to tell you what I'm going to do."
Yeah,
because she wants to talk to her father directly, and I think Chancellor Naon's like, "No, we can send a message to him or whatnot," and she's like, "No, I'm talking to him personally."
Yeah, because up to that point, like Letitia has been very not quite timid, but she has not come off as like an authoritative type of character.
She's just been deferential to Ray, being like, "Oh, okay, we'll do your thing. Like, we're still going to do our thing, like mine and Albert's, but we'll take care of your thing first."
Yeah. So yeah, this was definitely the first showing of like, oh, okay, well, when it comes down to like the kingdom or what she wants to do, she's not as ready to agree with other people as she is with Raymond. So let's see. But yeah, so essentially the king has, I guess, to kind of as a show of might of sorts against the Vale Empire, to rally the troops and stuff, has gone to the front lines, but have you did you go to the Semiomancer or the Semiomancy Consortium?
Yeah. So I mean, that's where Midas was hanging out while you guys were in the castle talking shop. And then he basically just leaves your party at that point. Says, "Okay, well, I'm not going to Baldar. You guys go do that. I'll be here when you return."
Yeah, like he's not there to babysit. But I think it's either in the consortium or maybe it's in the area where Nayan is introduced. But there is another character that gets introduced. The director Mathia or Melthia.
Melthia. Yeah. She's a dwarf lady. Dwarf in stature, not like
an actual like bearded.
Actual dwarf, yeah. She was once she was Midas's secretary whenever he ran the consortium, but she's director of it now.
Yeah, and I mean she's fairly like not, again kind of like Letitia, not exactly an authoritative figure, but she knows her stuff. She's pretty confident in her abilities to run the consortium and steer people in the right direction.
I guess, yeah. We had like one paragraph conversation with her.
Well, okay, yeah. I guess I'm trying not to. I can't not to jump too far ahead. But,
yeah, I can't read her palms. I don't know how well she can run the consortium or turn people into semiomancers.
But
I mean, that pretty much catches up to where I am at now. I'm like. Okay. I am 24 and a half hours in. Like I said, I just finished exploring all of Sendros, so I'm fixing to...
Massive area.
Fixing
to
go...
wish there's more.
Yeah. Fixing to head towards Baldar, I think, through the Asarius Plains.
So, yeah, which, that's... That area, again, kind of, just going back through an area of performance issues.
Oh, is this area bad, too?
Well, I think the high road...
Because the Asarian high road is what you take to get into Ascendros, but then to get to Baldar, you go through the Asarius Plains.
Okay, so the plains are not as bad as the high road. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think they're as bad as the high road. So, and that's kind of... I kind of wish that some of the names were a little bit more like you got the Asarian Plains and you got the Asarian High Road. It's like, okay, you
got Larkus Weld, Larkus Region, Larset Village.
Yeah, it's like you probably could have gotten a little more detailed with that, but yeah. So essentially, kind of where you're at, they kind of signify that Baldar is a border town. Between the Empire and the Kingdom, so, but it is Kingdom territory, I believe. So yeah, that's kind of where.
I guess it'd be odd
at.
If the king was in a Vale Empire controlled town.
Yeah. So, I will say, the story does start to make some shifts once you get there. So, You got some stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, in this last session, it started picking up, or this, in this podcast recording, basically what we've discussed, running into another one of those purple-skinned horned beasts and seeing, let's see, we think they're probably off-worlders. Looks like they're maybe conspiring with the Vale Empire for some reason. Now we're starting to get some mystery, some intrigue.
And I'm really interested to get to the next episode to talk more about Midas, because there's some stuff there. So I'm looking forward to that, because he knows some stuff, and I mean, outside of just where the story is at, not a lot has really shifted anywhere else. Like, I mean, the vatting system got unlocked in this recent set of playthroughs that we had. I don't think, as far as like there's no new characters, so we're still running with Letitia, Albert, Raymond, Elena, Nina, and Midas. So yeah, like the character front, the gameplay, like the actual combat front, like not a whole lot of stuff developing there. So yeah, just a lot of story.
Yeah. Well, other than Star Ocean, I did get my Sega Genesis Mini 2.
Oh yeah.
We checked some of that out the other day. We played some of the RPGs on there. Just dabbled with a little bit of all of
them. Shining Force 2, Phantasy Star 2, Shining Force CD. Is that?
Yeah, Shining Force CD, Crusader of Senti.
We
Yeah,
checked out.
I've not had a chance to play this too much, and I don't know when I will. It's kind of like the the adult problem whenever you are into video games. Like as a youth, I had no money and all the time in the world. Now I have all the money and no time in the world.
Yeah. And
But
I mean, you've got Pokemon coming up right around the corner,
yeah,
along with
So
Star Ocean to play and Ease.
yeah. So this the Sega Genesis Mini 2, it is pretty awesome though.
Oh yeah.
It seems like it's like $100, maybe a little pricey, but I think it's going to be relatively
a great way to play some of the games.
A great way to play these games. Relatively rare. It's got a lot of new games on it, quote unquote new games. M2 Sega, they did a lot of cool work on this.
What was
and
that?
of course
this strategy.
War Song.
Yeah, War Song.
Yeah.
Man, that just a little bit that you pulled up. A fairly complex game for what the system was capable of.
Yeah, and like you said, it looked like the battles were reminiscent of like Suikoden 1, Suikoden 2, the big party battles.
Yeah, which, oh man, when I saw that, I was like, oh, I wish I could play this now.
But yeah, then other than that, like you said, I've got Ys. I've still been playing that game, and I would say you need to play that game. That Ys game is awesome.
And that was the Memories of Celceta.
Yeah, Ys Memories of Celceta on the Vita, and I think it actually just recently got ported to the PS4. I think like last year a copy came out for that.
It seems like the series is kind of gaining a lot of traction here recently because they've got 9. Did 9 just come out or recently came out?
Yeah, 9's still coming out like the last year or two.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the series. I know the series has always been pretty well regarded. Somewhat niche, but always well liked.
Yeah.
And I've played previously, I've played the first one on the Sega Master System. I have a number of them. I've always been a fan of more action-oriented JRPGs, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me to jump into this one. But this one is just, whereas like Star Ocean has been kind of slow to start or kind of dull or kind of formulaic, just reminiscent of other games, Ys has just kind of blown my mind, like just done stuff differently. Maybe not blown my mind, but at least been more original, more unique in some of its stuff, which is kind of shocking to say whenever you're describing a game where your protagonist has amnesia.
Yeah, not a new thing.
No, they've done interesting stuff with that, but I am very close to beating that game. Like, I am hoping to complete it before Pokemon comes out on Friday. I think I'll be able
to. It really
to.
is Friday.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And so, I should clean that up by Friday, and then I'll have Star Ocean on my slate as well as Pokemon.
Which for Pokemon, like that's an evergreen title for you. Like that's always a franchise that, I mean, how many hours did you put into Sword?
Oh, I'm like 700 plus.
So like,
yeah, and it's Pokemon's a sort of game where at least whenever you get through the story, get through the pretty much a lot of the single player component of it, then you're just building teams or actually like breeding Pokemon, doing that stuff. At that point, it just becomes something where I can be watching a show and play this in the background. It's something I don't have to focus 100% of my attention towards.
And then, so which one are you maining? Is it Scarlet or Violet?
So I'll get the dual pack. Spouse and I will both play. I think I'm going to go with Violet, though. I was going to go Scarlet up until they announced Armor Rouge and I think Ceruledge. And then seeing those two, it's like, okay, Armor Rouge is really good. Armor Rouge is like a 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 Pokemon design. But Ceruledge is like a 12 out of 10.
Ooh. Just
so
breaking the charts.
Yeah, so I got to go with Violet.
So for the most part, like, you're fairly stacked as far as your plate of recent to new releases.
Yeah, and then just the fact that they're basically all JRPGs. Normally, I try and like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to play a JRPG. I'm going to play a couple other shorter style games. It's like, no, not this time. I'm just going to like basically get a big old plate full of JRPGs.
Yeah, you've got Ys, you've got Pokemon, you've got Star Ocean. Um, so it's you're just. And at some point, before all of this stuff, I mean, before all we started talking about these games and all that, like, at some point you'll be diving into Suikoden Tactics, because you've wrapped up 4 earlier in the year. Well, I think earlier in the year.
Yep.
It's been a crazy year, but so at some point, you're going to be diving into Suikoden Tactics, but
But then on top of all that,
we also
jumped into Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, which, like, so I played a little bit of Star Ocean, but I was yesterday, but I was kind of tired, so I wasn't really able to really. I didn't really want to sit down and take notes and stuff and try to all that. I just really wanted to just have a game session where I didn't have to really do a whole lot of thinking. And you and I on Sunday checked out Vampire Survivor and got through a good portion of it. Or at least,
no.
we didn't get through a good portion. We
No.
played a good amount.
Not close. Yeah, we played a lot of it. We did not get through a lot.
And so I was like, okay, I was sitting down, I was playing Star Ocean, I was jotting down some notes and stuff, and I was like, man, I've had a I've had a long day of work. I really don't want to I don't want to be dealing with taking down notes and trying to keep up with this stuff. So after about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes of playing, I saved, backed out of the game, and I was like, well, Vampire Survivor's there. And then I ended up playing like two hours worth of Vampire Survivor.
Did you make it to any other levels?
I did unlock the library, which is kind of a cool. It's a cool departure from the first area, which is the forest. More dealing with like going left to right. There's not a whole lot of being able to go up and down. So new enemies that actually they've got like that the lance thing that slows you slows you down. So just a nice thing. I collected the relic that's in that area. And for the most part, I was just like, you know what? I want to try some of these new characters.
Yeah, let's see. The relic, is that the one that shows you the weapon evolutions?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you get to the next level?
I have not, because I ended up going back to the forest, and I started unlocking some of the other characters because I just really wanted to see what some of these other ones do.
Okay. I would say it's worth your while, and I just read this whenever I was kind of just looking through some of the achievements later on. I think one of the things you want to do is basically just bum rush towards the 3rd level and then get one of the relics there, because it's a mini map. And so for every level, it then shows you where the power-ups are on the level.
What?
And so that's very helpful.
Well, okay. So yeah, I'm going to go back to the library. I'm going to try to get through that as quickly as I can and get access to the next level so that I can, or the next stage, so I can get that mini map, because I didn't realize. So,
Yeah, and so
that's a game changer.
Yeah, and so I think last night, no, it may have been Sunday night whenever I got that. Maybe it was Monday night, but yeah, last night I think we may have been texting about it. And
you had said something like you had reached like level 67 or something.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I'd reached level 67, and basically like towards the end of that second stage. Yeah, towards the end of that second stage, like I'm telling you, like there were just a massive enemies. Like you could not see my character because there were like 1,000 enemies on the screen, and they were all big, tough enemies. It was just ridiculous. And I basically evolved all of the weapons I had in my inventory. I've kind of learned, you have like, let's say you have like an inventory space of 7. There's probably like 14 different power-ups you can pick up. So whenever we're choosing what to power up, at some point you kind of want to be conscious of which ones go together to form like the weapon evolutions. And then
Oh.
there's a lot to think about when you're playing. It turns out there's a lot of different things you can work towards or do differently.
Because yeah, like I posted in the in the Discord, just being like, I typically can get to about 15 minutes in and then I die. Um, like 10 to 15 minutes kind of seems to be the usual range. But then when I got to when I realized that I unlocked the library, um, I got in there and I lasted like 20 something minutes on the first playthrough with the library. I was like, oh, okay. So, but in the forest, it's about 10 to 15 minutes before I die, and that's with it doesn't matter what character. But I did start noticing the weapon evolution, like that guide for that. So I've been trying to pay more attention to that because I'm like, okay, well, evolving these weapons, they're obviously going to be much more effective if I actually evolve them. So yeah.
And another thing is, I figured out how the treasure chests spawn.
Is it certain enemies that you have to defeat?
Yes, yeah, because every now and then it looks like kind of a bigger enemy, or like those bats with the blue auras around them. Basically, a tougher enemy spawns, and so I think what helped me that one run where I basically completed the library, I got to the end of the library, was whenever I saw those, I just started focusing my attacks on them to try and get that treasure chest as fast as possible.
And I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems like the treasure chest that you get, it's not just like a random, it's random, but I think it's random based on what you've got equipped.
I believe that's correct.
So, like there was one time, like I ended up getting like 2 or 3 treasure chests pretty close together, and the first item I had unlocked was the all-powerful garlic, and the treasure chests were just giving me more garlic. I was like, oh, this is great. And then I ended up getting like another weapon because I was like, I've powered up garlic to like level 5 at this point. I need another form of attacking, and I think it was the magic wand or the fire wand or something. And when I got the next treasure chest, I got like another fire wand or something. So I started kind of noticing. I was like, okay, I think it's based off of what I've got equipped.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
I know when in our sessions, I think we picked up the knife once or twice and kind of were dismissive of it.
yeah.
In the session I had where I got to the end, I had picked up the knife and I maxed it out. And it's like, okay, every weapon's probably going to be pretty awesome whenever you get it high enough, because the knife was just killer.
Tearing through people. Literally, bump. Well, and one of the characters that you can unlock, their primary weapon is a knife. So I was like, okay, well, I want to see what this character can do. So I unlocked, I think Gennaro, I think is the character. And primary weapon is a knife. So as I was powering it up, it was like it went from 1 knife to 2 to 3, and then the speed was going faster. I was like, oh, okay, this is a really useful weapon. Not great for swarms, but it's good for when you're just trying to like tear through and kind of create a path. But yeah, like it's for anybody like with Vampire Survivor. I likely wouldn't have checked it out if it wasn't for being on Game Pass. I mean, I know it's like $5 without Game Pass, but still probably wouldn't have necessarily checked it out if it wasn't for Game Pass. So the fact that it is on Game Pass is nice.
Yeah, it's another one where I probably would not have either, just because it had been exclusive to PC, I believe, up until now. And not that I have anything against playing PC games, I just don't play them that often. I don't buy them there, per se. But it is one that had been on my radar just because I'd heard, a lot of praise thrown at it through like Giant Bomb and just seeing people talk about it on Twitter. And so whenever I saw it come into Game Pass, I think kind of as a surprise, it's like, oh, I can play it now.
Yeah.
So I too am glad I checked it out.
And yeah, like I had heard a couple people at work talking about it, and it sounded interesting, but not interesting enough for me to deviate from the games that I was already playing. But hey, it's like I've already got Game Pass, I might as well check it out. And then uh, it's actually a fairly, even though there's no co-op with it, you and I were kind of we were trading off as we were playing, and just kind of getting to see how the like how you were playing with it, as far as like getting to test out new weapons and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, I really hope that I get the garlic on whenever I play, because it seems like that's going to be a really useful weapon to have, especially just being able to mow through the bats, especially in the early going. Um, and so yeah, just kind of being able to trade off. It's an interesting kind of couch co-op type of experience. Like I'm enjoying it solo, but being able, like when you and I were playing and trading off, it's like just kind of being able to kind of talk about and strategize a little bit, and
Being able to bounce off new ideas. Just see what the other person was doing, and then like just be surprised at what's coming. It's like, oh no, a big swarm of something's coming at it. Like,
yeah,
run.
and then just kind of being like, okay, well, being able to have, being able to say, okay, well, should I power up the axe? Should I power up Pichone? Should I, just being able to
kind of have like
bounce those ideas.
Yeah, almost like a vote. Like, okay, well, what are we going with?
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm just not giving it enough credit, but I really haven't done anything on like the defensive front, like the armor and stuff, or like increasing health or anything like that in the actual like battles, or the actual session. Whenever you get enough gold and stuff, like I'll go through and I'll increase recovery, or I'll increase damage and stuff, or increase my health there. But when I'm actually in like running around, I'm just like, I need more damage. I need more damage. I need more damage. So
yeah, I've been the same way. Like, I have picked up the armor or getting some I will say the laurel is helpful. Laurel kind of does the same effect as garlic, but only for defense. It basically just throws up a shield around your character. So I have found that very helpful. And, the armor, I'm sure like everything is going to be helpful whenever you get to the max, or everything's helpful in like certain combinations. The armor, I have not found especially useful, I think, because it seems like it's just like strictly reducing the incoming damage, which again is a great benefit. I just have not tried. I have not done a run where it's like, okay, well, let me go ahead and max that out and see how beneficial that is.
Yeah. One character that was really nice, and I actually, on my first session playing as the character, I don't remember the name, but it's the character that increases experience points every like 5 levels. Like I ran up the charts with with levels very quickly with that character. So I ended up having a lot of weapons. I don't even remember how many weapons I had before like I hit the 10-minute mark, but I just, enemies couldn't get close to me before the 10-minute mark, because I just had so many weapons going and so many power-ups. Yeah, like it was like, man, I'm having no challenges. And I think I got to about 22 minutes in on the forest with that character. The experience buff max, or the passive maxes out at like plus 30%. But man, like it was just you've leveled up, you've leveled up, you've leveled up, you've leveled up. I was like, oh, okay, this is great. Like I've got so many things going on right now that like I didn't have any issues with like the praying mantises. I was able to walk right through the flowers and stuff. Like there was just no issues. But then obviously enough of a swarm happened that I was like, okay, well, this is when I'm supposed to die. But yeah, we've actually, I mean, we've had a pretty good week of gaming. Even got to, kind of referencing back to the Sega Genesis Mini 2, a surprise on there being Mansion of Hidden Souls. Not a huge seller, but it's cool to see the portfolio of a system you've got your great games, but some people who get this may not have checked out Mansion of Hidden Souls, and then they're checking it out, and they find the enjoyment that you and I have with it, where it's just this very cheesy, corny, very dated game, but we had fun with it. I don't think we had fun with it in the sense that the developers necessarily wanted us to have the enjoyment with it.
I mean, it's fun. It's puzzle solving.
Well, yeah, like the puzzle solving is fun, but just the exaggerated like dialogue and just it does run better than it did when we originally played it on the Sega CD.
I don't know about that.
I mean, it seemed to, like, whenever turning or moving towards a door or something, it seemed to operate a little bit better than what I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you've touched that game in like more than 10 years, so.
Yeah, true. We could do a side by side. We could do a side by side comparison, because you've got your old TV out there now that we could hook it up to that and have the Mini 2 hooked up to your main TV, and that way we can really show everybody that just the wonders of like first person horror from that era.
Adventure game, first person adventure game.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, well.
So, moving to the current week, I think it's safe to say Vampire Survivor will get a couple more plays. Obviously, Star Ocean: The Divine Force. Now, do you plan on like playing Pokemon as like the day you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll probably have some of your experiences for the next podcast for that as well. And the climax of Ease Memories of Celceta.
Yeah. Should have if all things go according to plan, hopefully be able to finish that.
So
speaking of finishing things,
yeah, we got a pretty good episode here. So we will be back next week with episode 19 with more coverage, more talking about Star Ocean and the developments that happen with as we approach Baldar and the brewing issues between the Vale Empire and the Kingdom of Osirius. So I am Jeff from Just One More Level.
This was John from mybrandongames.com.
And we will be back next week with episode 19. See ya, everybody.